Yeah, now they have to say that.
So, Karine, thank you so much for meeting with me today and being on the podcast. I'm so excited for you to share your stories and just your very unique personal journey with menopause at such a young age.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for having me and allowing me to actually open up about it because there's not much that is talked about, especially for women with endometriosis and going through menopause at an early age.
Definitely, definitely. I think that, this season we have been talking to a lot of people around the menopausal change, but what so many of us forget is that hysterectomy happens to be one of the most common surgeries performed in this country. And in many cases, it is on women who are still in their cyclical years. So there are so many of us who transition into menopause that is not associated with maybe growing older, and the kind of support that we have access to during that time is again not really discussed. So I think especially your case, because you do have a history of endometriosis and that's ultimately what led you to your surgeries, and I'd love for you to share a little bit about that, of your experience with endometriosis culminating in the surgery. And then what were you expecting menopause? Were you prepared for menopause? Were you informed about it? I'm really curious to know if like how you were held during that time.
So, well, we all know that we really are not supported enough through any journey when it comes to our womb area. It seems that it's just a taboo, oh yeah, you just have a baby and that's it. You don't even talk about sex, you don't even talk about any health conditions, and definitely the hysterectomy was not something that um, it was spoken about. With my journey with endometriosis, I had to like really look into the lineage of women in my family, because I did know that it was common and normal for us to have a bad period. But the more I looked into this bad period and bad period comments, it was just, realizing that most of my aunts, from both sides actually, of my mom and my father, um, they had bad periods and it was endometriosis. A lot of them end up having hysterectomy, and when I was confronted with the decision of having to have a hysterectomy, it it was easy for me to go back to them, but it was hard for them to open up about it. So I was being confronted with the idea of letting my aunts, I guess, release that suppression that they had on their own and confiding me, I, and I want to say like conversations that they weren't able to open up about, and this is me younger, because the I had a total hysterectomy at the age of 29. And that's when they just they leave you the ovaries but remove the cervix and the fallopian tubes and the uterus itself, but they leave the ovaries. So that was the first part. And one big concern that it was like, oh no, you'll be able to have sex. That was like one of, because I am married young, and you start thinking, well, I'm not able to have sex if I get my uterus removed. And I think the process really allowed my aunts to actually open up, to have a closer relationship with them, and for them to even heal a part of themselves. They just followed through what they were guided to do by the doctors, and it was just to remove it so there was no more pain. I also felt that out of desperation, I made the decision of just removing the uterus completely. And the pain of the endometriosis leads you into that decision in a way, because you see that there's the conventional medicine really doesn't work or fails you in a way, and then it's like, well, I guess cutting it out is what the solution is, and that's what I was offered. So being able to ask my aunts and feel like, okay, they still alive, they still doing good apparently, they seem to be doing okay, and sex is gonna be fine, then I shouldn't worry. But the mental health is not discussed, the emotional is not discussed, uh, and seeing the effect that it has on you, the removal of body part, having that grieving process. So it goes into a shallow communication, just on the surface. Oh, yes, you'll be fine. I had it done. Everything is fine. And you're able to have sex. That's it. Instead of going deeper into, like, yes, when you have this surgery, you will come out fine. Yes, it's true. You'll come out fine and you'll be able to deal with certain things. But the first couple of months of having the surgery, your body goes into a shock. It's like you just hit a truck. You've been hit by a truck and you just trying to, like, come up, like running and walking. No, you can't. You have to, like, slowly, the body has to slowly adjust to the changes that are going on, because we are a whole being. And this is something that I learned throughout my journey, that there's a connection between my body, right, my uterus, and the rest of my body, my brain, my heart. And I felt all at a loss when I soon after the surgery, and then of course it affects the family. It affects your entire surrounding, because now here you are. You're supposed to get better, but yes, physically you feel okay. You were even clear to have sex, within 6 weeks of having surgery, and you emotionally, mentally don't feel ready. You're not talked about how to deal with, the outbursts of emotions, and um, wanting to cry one time and then feeling some sort of hope at the other, and then thinking, oh my God, I'm going crazy in another, and then with the thought of having to be a wife, a mom, a daughter, a worker, a house, like a housewife, and all of this really just compresses, and it's a tough time for a woman to go through without having a support. Yeah.
Yeah, I really hear you with that, because I think that speaks so much to how our bodies are looked at in our culture. They're just their functionality. Are you reproducing, or are you available for sex? Reproducing, available for sex, reproducing, available for sex. So if you're not reproducing, we can cut a certain organ out, but you will still be available for sex. And that's the important part. That's the good thing. Okay, goodbye, done. And it tells you so much about the relationship with our bodies that we don't have, because we're in a culture that's the connection. That's it. It's looked at reproduction and sex. Now, beyond that, in a female body with an experience very unique to people who have a uterus and menstrual cycles and have the ability to birth or not, I feel like that missing piece, that understanding that your body is a whole, as you said, and we have this, none of your organs exist in isolation. None of your body parts exist in, yes, can you continue and live without them? Of course. Is there an energetic blueprint? Of course. But if we don't give space for that process and for that relationship, for grieving, for connecting, for tending to, I mean, so we are so much more than sex and reproduction. Like, that's what I want to yell at. So much more. And sex and reproduction is a tiny part. It's a tiny piece of this beautiful, like, tapestry of complexity and art and everything that we are. So Really, it's such an injustice that we function with this in this medical system, or even in this culture that really prioritize that. And I'm really curious when you said about your surgery and you're leaving your ovaries. So you have this, at that point, you're still not menopausal because you have your ovaries so you can produce your own hormones. Regardless, you still experience a very deep physical, emotional uh, grieving to this. And then what happens? How did you said, well, you were okay. And you're in this process. Physically, you're okay. So what led you to the next step in your journey?
Yeah, so physically I was okay, but I knew that emotionally and mentally I was just what I realized now, I was needing that grieving process. And I didn't get the chance to actually, like, okay, there's a part of my body that, that just left, and that is so sacred for a woman. Internally I knew this, but I didn't know how to explain why was I feeling that way. And it wasn't until I started my spiritual journey that I realized how sacred the womb is, and how important it is for the woman, and how so much of our traumas are held within our womb. And I had the ovaries, and because of the endometriosis that I had experienced, a severe endometriosis, the first surgery um, that I had, the doctor didn't do the proper procedure for removal of the endometriosis. So there were endometriosis left behind in my ovaries. And the second time around that I went back to check, I started just having like bleeding again, and I couldn't understand. I said, why am I bleeding if I'm not supposed to be bleeding. I don't have a uterus. So the endometriosis came back. It wrapped up around the ovaries. And with the endometriosis, even though they don't treat it like a cancer, I honestly believe that they should just treat it as a cancer, like they do with any cancer patient. It developed into a cancer in my ovaries.
Mm.
It was the first stage cancer into the ovaries, but with endometriosis in addition on the outside. So that led to the removal of the ovaries because it was just overreacting. I understood at that point that okay, there was a purpose of why they needed to come out. I had a better mentality and judgment in making the decision of yes, having it removed. But again, the mental and the emotional is something that is left out. And when the ovaries were removed, I I felt even more empty. I entered into a depression, and it was a way for me to connect even deeper in my spirituality, because at that point you're asking God, why me? Like, what did I do? Like, what's happening? Is there even a God? Why am I in so much pain? Why do I have to go through this? This is my seventh surgery. Why do I have to do this? So you find yourself in this, like, uh spiritual disconnect, looking to, like, finding out what's wrong with me, or why me, and that's when you start digging deeper, and knowing that yes, it's not you. This is something that it is a process, but there are ways for you to deal with this process. And um I started looking into more of the alternative healing, looking into homeopathic, and more into the herbs, which I already knew that they were part of me, but more intentional in what I wanted to do. When I went to the doctors, I was clear that, okay, I know that there are alternative out there. I want you to offer me the alternative. I know you're able to find them. And if you're not able to find them, who can you send me to for me to be able to feel better? That it doesn't have to be the conventional way. And standing up for myself even brought that energetic feeling of the womb within me, you know. So I was able to ask my doctor for holistic medicine to deal with the depression, because I did enter depression. I entered a mental state, and I was referred to a psychologist to work through. And with that, and going to uh, pelvic therapist. That's it. I was trying to PT. Is the pelvic therapist, which is a combination, you know, and that's what they don't tell us. And we go back to the body as a whole. It's not just, hey, take one part out and that's it. No. Now you have to work with the body. I had to work with my mental, you know, state. I had to work with, yes, the hormonal, and with working with the herbs, and as well as the physical. Because after a surgery, you know, just as they do like a knee surgery and you have to go to occupational therapy to do therapy on your knee, you have to do with your womb. And they don't tell this to women, not even when women do a C-section. And that is essential. Your womb is cut up open. Your pelvic area is cut up open, and you're not even treated for it. So these are things that I believe that they get dismissed. And because women don't know that they have the option to ask for it, they're not offered. Oh, so many women have been fine without it. No, they just have had to deal with it. I've seen women that they cannot even bend down because their abdomen after a C-section doesn't work, you know, and that's just missing the physical part, missing some physical therapy, you know. And these are things that I was able to regain within myself on the second surgery, to understand the process. You know, I was a little bit more stronger mentally in a way, but still, it brings you um, into this questioning, you know, and
Sure.
yeah, it definitely is a process.
Yeah, I mean, I'm so inspired by your story because in your case, finding ways to support yourself and saying, I do need support. First of all, I have to ask for help. This this is not, instead of saying, oh, I guess this is just what I'm supposed to suffer. Like, no, there has to be an alternative route to what this expectation of, like, oh, surgery, go home, done, and just adapt. Sometimes our bodies don't just adapt. Sometimes they're hurt and they do need tending to, and they do need help. And in my field, what's particularly interesting for me in your case is that, you know, I have done a lot of research on bioidentical hormone therapy and its benefits at this point, and its, educated risk taking, educated benefits long term. And for someone as young as yourself who went through that process, I feel like we've had this conversation in the past where you shared that, estrogen therapy is not an option for you. Your body tends to be highly sensitive to any form of estrogen. And as we know, endometriosis doesn't necessarily go 100% away just because you have a hysterectomy. Sometimes there's scar tissue left behind that can react to levels of estrogen in your body, and that tissue can grow again. So, in your case, you made the decision that you were not going to risk getting on any kind of estrogen therapy because of that. And at the same time, we know that your body requires the kind of support and nourishment that estrogen would normally provide. It has so many other functions. So, really knowing that and then educating yourself and looking, just starting to look, like you said, the plant medicine had called me. So I went back, and there was like other ways of supporting yourself, which are so important because we can't ignore this. If not, really, your body needs nourishment and it needs that support long term. So when you said, you went into this severe depression right after, and that makes so much, it's so rational in the terms of in biology, it makes so much sense because all of a sudden it's like you completely eliminated in just one swoop your primary sex hormone production, and estrogen and progesterone, even a little testosterone produced in the ovaries, does so much for our brain health, our heart health, our bone health, our skin, everything. So, in menopause, in let's say natural menopause, there's years of that. You go through this slow and steady phase, and even then it's challenging for the body to recalibrate, adapt, and then it comes back. But in cases like a hysterectomy with the ovaries removed, it's fast. It's severe. It's like you're just going through the gauntlet, and you're hoping that you do recalibrate without feeling like you're losing your mind or some other kind of a physical capacity. So, I mean, that alone that alone needs to be, I think, really brought to the forefront for women to understand, women who are about to undergo this surgery, women who, like you, have endometriosis and are afraid of estrogen replacement therapy because their body doesn't react well to it. What are their options? So I'd love to for you to share a little bit about like what worked for you. We know each body is super unique and individual, but I know from your history that you did connect with plants and supplements. And then there's also other modalities, including pelvic therapy, but even some more like womb wisdom modalities that really kind of, I think, created a big part of where your not just your passion, like your self-care path, but also what you do now.
Yeah. Oh,
I'd love
yeah.
for you to
I
share a
mean,
little
it
bit.
opened me up to everything because for so long I was so resistance of even like I hated anything that had to deal with my womb. I hated being a woman just because of the pain that it was like, no, why am I gonna love something that causes me so much pain? And not realizing that it would be like a whole turnaround of it because I started doing more spiritual work, more connection, and listening to my body, every part of my body, the energetic healing. I mean, that's not mentioned, how us as an energetic beings, we could actually, interfere on how our bodies function. I understood that my physical womb wasn't there, but I also saw how energetically, there were so many imprints within my womb that caused for all that charge, because it was a charge, and for my womb to be hurting. And that's what happens, at the moments that we're not seeing that we are whole beings, that we're not connecting our traumas, our feelings, our emotions with what happens with our body and the illnesses that we happen to create and within our body. It's like it is that disconnect, we see that disconnect. And I see how life experiences, how life trauma, not only my own, but the lineage of women, I saw how my aunts, they all had, something to do with their womb. But I see that is an ancestral history within that. And clearing and working through those emotions to be able to lighten up the area. I'm not going to say that it's all 100% and this is a complete cure. No, because we're always working, we're always shedding, we're always letting go of something. And And I see this as my cycle. This is my cycle now. And like every month is like a shedding, a different something that I leave behind. And learning that symbolism and that connection of the womb, um, like opened me up to not only heal my emotional but my mental. It was more clear to me, why was I feeling this way, and what caused this, and understanding more openly, being able to connect with my womb and not feel so like rigid, and which is what we tend to do nowadays. It's just like, oh no, and this is, it has to be completely gone, and this, trying to perfect things, and relying on the alternative medicine, definitely. So right now, the first couple of months I worked on, because you do get the hot flashes, and the night sweats. I mean, not gonna lie, that's horrible. So in top of everything else, you getting the hot flashes, and you are getting the night sweats, and something that worked for me, and show you this is a homeopathic supplement. It's called, I don't know how to say it.
Yeah, for our listeners, ask
Yeah,
so
acne.
act, EANE, homeopathic medicine.
Homeopathic medicine, and you're able to find it anywhere, and it was a life saving for my first couple of months. It does help with the, if you get like the blotchiness, and the night sweats, they even I don't even know how to say that word, like when you are irritable.
Irritability. Yeah.
Yeah. And it helps with that, with the mood swings, and the sleepless nights, because the night sweats would actually cause for you to wake up, and then you're not able to go back to sleep. And I went back to making black cohosh tea, and every night I was just going back into the tea to regulate my my cycle, in the sense of it does provide um, some estrogen and progesterone, but balancing out and mimicking what your ovaries are supposed to do, especially for women that are going for menopause, or after a hysterectomy, without having side effects. I was very cautious, and of course fearful in a way of trying anything that could alter the estrogen. And whenever I used to, and like you said, like whenever I see, oh, estrogen, oh, I don't know if I want that. Definitely my eating, I change my eating habit when it comes to cutting out dairy, and cutting out sugar, which it just elevates how you're feeling. In regards to protein, I'm very cautious when it comes to protein, but there are times that the body would ask for a certain amount of protein. And if your body is asking for some steak, go for it, because you might be needing it, knowing of course your limits. So with foods, I try not to be too strict, but I know that the dairy and the sugar definitely makes a whole of a difference when you are dealing with, especially, I would say, especially the first 3 to 4 months. It's a nice window for you to, try to stay away from the things that we know are the big no-nos, and then later on just progress to what it feels right, and how your body is feeling within that period. But I would say the 4 first months are crucial, in maintaining a clean diet. Definitely calcium is something that it cannot be missed, because it is clear that we there the risk of osteoporosis is higher, for women that are going through menopause and surgical menopause. That is clear. Staying active, exercising helps your bones. It's not the other way around. It actually helps your bones. So that's something that even for my mental health as well, I have to be doing. And what else? Where, like, you start getting like your little tool of things that work. And
Yeah.
there's some things that might not even work for you. So you still like, okay, that didn't work. Okay, I placed this back in. Another supplement that I use and I recommend for women with endometriosis and even after is the NAC. Um, I do have it on the, but it's an anti oh my god, we might have to edit that because I forgot.
That's okay. N-L-cysteine. I can't remember everything that it does. I know it's really important.
But it's an antioxidant. That's what it is.
That's it.
It's an antioxidant, and it's just an amazing supplement to be taken, especially for women. Within there's been a lot of studies in regards to that supplement, and even now with the pandemic,
Mhm.
it seems to be helping as well. So that is a plus to have, as well as CoQ10.
Yes.
That one is essential as well because we have to work on our brain. And that leads me to omega 3. So those are like the supplements that are like the most, and those are the ones that I actually take on a daily basis because they are essential. And yes, there are some decremental in your health if you let it be, in the sense of, yes, there's osteoporosis or the mental effects and the weight gain. But these are things that you're able to work through if you're putting the effort. You cannot just let go of yourself and say, oh, I'm done, and that's it, I'm an old person. No, it doesn't happen that way. And yes, sex is better after. I just wanted to add that in because I know
Yes.
that's also
Thank
always
you.
a concern. And for that portion, I don't know if you want me to go into it and right away.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you will have dryness for the first couple of months. The dryness does exist. So um, I noticed that when I was more hydrated naturally, it will be hydrated as well. My vagina will be more hydrated as well. So, drinking a lot of water, making sure that you're hydrated. Coconut water is so good just to elevate your hydration. And there's no shame of using lubricant and natural lubricant. Coconut oil is a natural lubricant with no added anything to it, and it's safe to use. It's safe for the vagina. And there's even some like things that the men could put around, but I know sometimes men are weird. The men don't do well with having add-ons. But coconut oil, it's a great way. I mean, nowadays there's even CBD oil, which helps with pain if you happen to be having pain. And then if you are dry and extremely dry, you will have pain. So if you could combine a CBD oil, even suppository, they have vaginal suppository that have CBD in it, and that's very helpful as well. And this is for the first couple of months. As long as you're treating yourself kindly, your vagina will come back to its natural state, and you'll be able producing your juices, your own juices, that and your own lubrication. You won't need extra. And if you do, that's completely fine too. You just continue to do it and enjoy. And and part of like sex, I know, with women with endometriosis, that's something that uh makes it less enjoyable because of the pain. And this was something that I was looking forward to when I had the hysterectomy. I was looking forward to having intercourse without pain. And for me, this is a win because I'm able to enjoy sex now without having to be worried about pain. And you start seeing the wins in it all, because it's very easy for us to get wrapped up in our stories. Oh yeah, I got this removed and now this and all these stories that we try to play sometimes in our head and become victims of. But see what's the beauty, and see what it brings. What did you learn? How are you feeling now differently in a higher note, not in the low, but in a higher note? How did it make you grow? And that's where I tend to focus on, and see, where all my experiences had led me to where I'm at now. Yeah.
Thank you so much for speaking to that, Karine. That is such a just a vulnerable, open, important, such an important share and something to give voice to. And your voice is such a beautiful voice to bring into that topic. So our time has come to an end, but I want to thank you for the wisdom that you have shared with us, because really that's what you shared, your story, but really the just the gems of the wisdom. And for all of the people listening who have had an experience similar to Karine's or would like to connect with her, we will have all of her information and all of her links. She is a guiding light in the womb healing space. So there will be all the accessibility to her will be shared. Thank you again, Karine.
Thank you for having me. Thank you.